Welcome to Leadership Development News, profiles and practices of top performers. And we're always trying to hear from top performers. We're going to talk with Lynn Blades today, and she has a book out, The Ambitious Woman's Guide to Recognize and Preventing Burnout. Burnout is a big subject for me, for Kathy. I work a lot with physicians where we know burnout is huge. And so we're going to ask Lynn for some of her tips and tools and things that can help you. We'll define kind of what burnout is and what you can do to prevent it. And so if you've been listening to our show, we're entering pretty soon our 20th season with Leadership Development News. And so we've been rated by FeedSpot as the top leadership development podcast. You know, podcasts have been out for quite a while. We started, Kathy and I, when it was called an internet radio show. And so we always want to give you some tools, some tips for you to be a top performer. And we define that as someone in the top 10%. Or many of you are leading your team. And how do you get your teams to be top performers? How do you get them to perform in the top 10%? And we always use the concept of emotional intelligence. And the reason that I like that and Kathy likes it is there's a lot of research on it. And as the research goes, it will define what are the behaviors of someone in the top 10%. And so we have the research, we have the behaviors, and Kathy and I are always trying to look at what are some of the key things to help someone be in the top 10%. I'll say another word and then introduce you to my esteemed host, Kathy Greenberg, who is with us. So we know why emotional intelligence, that employees with more emotional intelligent leaders are more satisfied in their job. This is out of a big study. And does your boss have emotional intelligence? Well, your boss's emotional intelligence is linked to 70% of your performance. So on both sides, you want to raise your emotional intelligence. You hope your boss is going to have that, and it's only going to help you. So, Kathy, welcome. Good to see you.
Hello. I'm coming to you live from the island of Dr. Moreau, also known as Sanibel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I know with the hurricane in the past and everything else, what's that like being there for you?
You know, if we could just go for 1 year without another major hurricane, it would be wonderful. You know, it wasn't just Ian. Last year we got hit by Helene and Milton. So we're praying that this year we'll have maybe a hurricane-free season.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited though today to welcome Lynn to the show, and I'm sure we're going to have a very engaging conversation. You know, as I look around and we're talking today about recognizing and preventing burnout, I think the problem is that, and we'll get into this with Lynn, is that a lot of people don't know that they're even in burnout. And that was the problem being here in this gorgeous environment, right? Because a lot of people had been here for too long past the first hurricane in 2022, which was Ian. And they were just finished cleaning up and opening up many of the beautiful restaurants and condominiums and areas for people to enjoy the beach and just the nature that's here. And then they got hit back to back last year, just boom, boom with Helene and Milton. And I think what I recognized being able to get off the island was that people were in burnout. Mm-hmm. And so had I not had, the luxury of having a home outside of this gorgeous island, I'll just say nature preserve, I wouldn't have recognized it either. And so I think today's show is going to be a real eye-opener around recognizing our emotions in the moment, as we like to talk about in emotional brilliance, and then being able to differentiate regardless of, what gender we are, that quiet burn, as Lynn says, can really get us. And if you're not understanding how you are in your best life and you're stuck, in this quiet burn, you can really put yourself in a very perilous mindset. And so I'm really excited about today's show.
Great. Well, I'm going to bring Lynn on. So first, Lynn, we can see you. And for people who can't see you, welcome to the show. And
Thank you. Thanks for
let
having
me
me.
do your intro. We've been talking about Quiet Burn, and you're the author of Quiet Burn, The Ambitious Woman's Guide to Recognizing and Preventing Burnout. And so all genders will benefit from this. It contains advice on living a fulfilling life, self-respect, effective communication needs, and recognizing the peril of ignoring personal well-being. So, like Kathy was saying, many of us, we're coping. We don't realize we're burnt out. Lynn is the founder of Legacy Leadership, an executive leadership consultancy, and dedicated to DEI, and she's an advocate there. She's tried to cultivate the 21st century workforce that truly reflects diversity in our society. She is part of Marshall Goldsmith's elite executive coaches, and we know Marshall well, with 2 decades of experience guiding diverse range of clients. She has coached C-suite executives, directors, and their teams across a variety of industries. Her clients include Fortune 500 companies and 100 companies like Nike, KPMG, Ernst & Young, Barclays, and PayPal. And she's the founding member of AllBright, an organization committed to the empowerment of women. And here she helps create Elevate, a year-long executive leadership course designed to foster leadership skills among women. She's on various boards, and she has exceptional communication skills. You may have seen her on CBS, CNN, CNBC, and Showtime. So Lynn, welcome to Leadership Development News.
Thank you.
Well, we're very happy to have you here, Lynn. And, as we always do with this program, we'd like to just learn a little bit about each of our guests by understanding who's been a major influence or influencers in your life, and a little bit about your background. How did you get here?
Well, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I'm a native Washingtonian, proper Washingtonian. I grew up there and educated on the East Coast, and grew up with 2 siblings and a very disciplined and ambitious parents who wanted the best for their children. They sacrificed to make sure that we had everything and that we needed to be successful in life. And you do get the push. So I was an all-American swimmer. I went to an Ivy League university, all the stuff that your parents wish for you. And it has paid off because I am disciplined and I am resilient, and I have certainly had some success in my life. I have had fantastic women in particular. I had an amazing father, but I have an amazing mother as well, who started out in the secretarial pool at the CIA and left with the Intelligence Medal of Honor. So wow. I couldn't really ask for a better role model. I don't know how she did it, to be honest. Breakfast on the table before children leave. She left at 5:30 in the morning, dinner, ready for us until we were old enough to be able to cook it for ourselves and help her out. And she just was that quietly confident stealth bomber who wow. was able to make her way through. And equally, to be honest, my father was incredible as well, and started out at the Smithsonian as a printer, and ended up with a park being named after him and a multi-million-pound educational fund. So wow. We are ambitious people.
I love it. And
those are big shoes to fill. But the other person who had a real impact on my life, certainly my professional life and my personal life, is Terry Savage. She was the first woman on the Chicago Board Option Exchange, and she is a syndicated columnist with the Chicago Tribune. And when I left Dartmouth and I got my first job as in the television industry, I became a producer for her. And boy, what a dynamo She really taught me the ropes in a very male-dominated industry. She really taught me how to maneuver, how to network, how to survive, not just to survive, but really to strive through. And she was brilliant, brilliant, and still an influence in my life today.
Wow, that's beautiful. So say a little bit of, you said that you tapped on this a bit. So did you start in journalism? And
I
then I know
did.
you're doing coaching. So yeah, give us the professional progression. So where were you a journalist? So what newspaper?
Well, I started out in the 64th Market in Iowa City, Iowa, at the CBS affiliate there.
Number 64. Okay.
And it was, I had a little morning show called The Early Word. It came on at 6:30 in the morning. But I quickly jumped from that market to Chicago, and I was at the WBBM in Chicago for 6 years. Loved it. Loved the Windy City. Really had a great time. Cut my teeth there. Won a Peter Lisagor Award for investigative journalism. Won a National Press Club Award, and I was part of the Emmy team for the news there. So it was a great experience. And when I didn't get what I thought I should get, I was sexually harassed there. So I experienced some not so nice things. And when I went to the big guy and said, listen, this is not cool, when I was about 26, and he just said, oh, you can't take a joke. And I said, well, you can just piss off. And I left. I left and I moved to LA, and I, it took me a little while, but got right back in the saddle, and went from CNN to I did hard news for quite a long time, followed some presidential campaigns, covered all the inaugurals and interviewed Clinton and so on and so forth. And then I went and took a completely different route and did entertainment news. So I was one of the very first hosts for E! Entertainment Television, which was a completely different kind of thing. But I really enjoyed it. And that's where I met my husband, who's British. So I live in London, and coming to you from London now. And he is a film producer and very successful. And we met when he was making his first film. So I was a successful one. And he stayed there for 10 years. And then we moved to London, where we decided we wanted to raise our daughter. And we've been here ever since. So 25 years later, I shot 2 television shows here. They did not air. The commissioning editors knew who I was. I thought I was going to walk in and it was going to be good. And nope. I shot those 2 shows. They didn't air. And I said, that's a sign. Got to pivot. And my husband was the one who said, you know what? You should be a coach. And I said, what? He said, you've been coaching all your life. You don't even know it. You've been coaching all your life. Go train, go retrain, and become a coach. And that's what I did. And I kind of never looked back, to be honest. I found my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is my purpose.
What an inspiring message for people, Lynn. I think when we look at many distinguished people across our industry, that's both, the industries we come from and coaching industry as well. People really have these already always listening perceptions of who we are and how we got here. And I love your story. It's full of the ups and downs of a well-lived life, or as Marsha likes to say, a well-earned life. And you're so inspiring and charismatic when you talk about the things that have impacted you and formed you and made you even better. When you look at where you've come from and where you are now in this beautiful book, The Quiet Burn, how did you decide that beyond coaching, you really wanted to help all people, and especially ambitious women, understand what's happening to them and how they can learn from your experience and your perspective to be resilient with their firm feet planted in the right direction?
I think what happened is it's a combination of things. First of all, I was in the process of scaling my business during the pandemic, well, right before the pandemic, and I had started experiencing lower back pain. And to be honest, I didn't pay that much attention to it because I'd had lower back pain before, maybe lifting too much weights or what have you. And so I kind of just ignored the advice of the doctors, which was foolish. And then I did something extra foolish, and that was because I was quite impatient. I've learned patience with time and necessity. I pulled a full-size rug up 2 flights of stairs because I didn't want to wait for someone to do it for me. I just wanted to get it done.
Wow.
And like a woman, we like to get things done. And that was the beginning of the end. Then came the pandemic. And I saw how my clients are global. So I was used to being on Skype or Mary Jane or various, platforms to communicate with my clients and hold my sessions. And the pandemic came and everybody was just so panicked. And I knew how to use this platform and was very versed in it, and also knew how to create communities where people felt safe and felt heard without being in the room. So my business boomed. And what I started to see, and I had seen this before, was the slow decline, the panic, the burn, the why don't I feel better? Why am I pushing myself through pain? Why am I on that hamster wheel, and what am I getting back? I'm not getting enough back for all the time I'm spending on the wheel. And it became very obvious to me, particularly among my female clients, that there's trouble.
Mhm.
There's trouble.
So we're going to get into kind of more the metaphor of the quiet burn. I mean, I like both words, and I know you spent some time on that, kind of the burn, but then the quiet burn, and then you're also going to introduce us to kind of burn toast. So we got a series of questions that we want to ask you. We're going to go to our first break, and you've been listening to Leadership Development News. We'll be right here when you come back.
Welcome back to Leadership Development News. We're having a delightful conversation with Lynn Blades. When we went to break, we were talking about some of the stories behind the book. Tell us a little bit about this concept or metaphor of burnt toast, Lynn.
Well, when I first wrote the book and when I submitted it, it was called Burnt Toast. And the reason why I called it Burnt Toast is because, sometimes we leave the toast in the toaster a little bit too long, but then we can salvage it. So we take it out and we scrape off that black stuff and slather on the butter or the jam or what have you. And we, try to make the best of it. But actually, if you do that too many times and you keep scraping off the crumbs, there is nothing actually left but crumbs. And that's how we often treat ourselves. We just kind of go, oh, that's all right. You know what? I don't feel my best today, but I'm just going to push through, oh, I'm really kind of worn out and I got brain fog. But, as soon as that project is finished or this person comes back from holiday, blah, 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 you just keep scraping off the crust and you get thinner and thinner and thinner. The tolerance and resistance level gets to be nil. And you often don't realize that until you're in a state of burn.
Wow.
And to be honest, 42% of working women are in some state of burnout right now. And if you're a leader, that is 53%, which is insane. And it's costing the economy, the global economy, $322 billion a year. So why aren't we looking at burnout as more than just a buzzword? That's what I want to know. You know, why aren't we taking it really seriously? Because our well-being is in jeopardy, and
Yeah.
we're not recognizing the signs. We simply, intuitively, we know something's going wrong, but we are not doing anything about it. We think that we are superwoman, super people, superheroes, and we're not. We're human beings.
Well said.
Well, good, Kat. I was pausing because I know this this is kind of your world and your life, and we've talked a lot. So go ahead. You can kind of follow up on that. And Kat's got her own experience of burnout, which kind of led her to where she is
Yeah.
now. But especially, for women in general, that superwoman deal, and I can do it. I'll just make a comment and pass it to you, Kat. I think some of it, Lynn, is because you're still moving and because there's still progress. And so, and this is good enough. And probably others don't notice as much. So that's the quiet piece. So go ahead,
Well,
Kat. Go
to
ahead.
be honest, I think we feel guilty. You know, we're conditioned. Certainly women are conditioned by society to put our needs last. They are secondary. We are taught to nurture. You know, you talked about emotional intelligence at the beginning of our conversation. You know, there's this misconception that men don't have emotional intelligence. Men and women have the same amount of emotional intelligence. It's just that women, their emotional intelligence lies on nurturing and building relationships. Men, their emotional intelligence is about self-preservation and acquisition. And we need both of those things. We need to be split right down the middle. So that is why women experience burnout more than men. Men, of course, do burnout, but that's the reason why women experience it more. But also, we are taught from little girls that we are supposed to look after everybody else and that we don't matter as much, quite frankly. So it's deeply ingrained in our psyche. And what I'm saying in the book is we need to rewire, we need to rethink. We need to ask ourselves the questions, what is this doing for me before I say yes? Embrace that golden word, no. No is a beautiful word. It's a word that means self-respect. It is a word that means boundaries. And I had to learn those things the hard way. You know, part of the reason why I wrote the book is because I let my back, during the pandemic, I was out walking and I got to a point where I could not walk properly. I was in such pain. And 2 weeks later, I was having emergency back surgery because I had not paid attention. I had pushed through so much pain that the two lower discs in my back had deteriorated. And I have a titanium cage and 3 3-inch screws in my back now. That's insane. That never had to happen. If I had employed boundaries, if I had said no, if I hadn't taken on things that I didn't really want to take on, saying yes when my inner voice is screaming no, if I had just realized that I am not Superwoman and realized that she is a cartoon character and dropped that cape, I wouldn't have had to learn that lesson, a lifelong lesson. I was out of sorts on 1,800 milligrams of nerve blockers, slurring for almost 6 months. And I wasn't really fully healed for a year.
Oof.
Insane.
Yeah.
So why? I didn't want that to happen to other women.
You can hear it in your voice. You can hear it in the passionate plea for even self-care. And, Relly has heard me many, many times talk about how my own journey and those that I supported had a problem with this superwoman myth. And I said, I've given up my membership. I don't pay those dues anymore. It's like, here's my card. I'm turning it back in. Here's my costume,
Yeah.
And also the Wonder Woman thing, no, my cuffs are gone, took them off, don't need them anymore.
Girl, I hear you.
Yeah, and I feel your back. I mean, I had a similar issue, and then wound up with with dual breast cancer. So, many of us, we don't recognize that we can be our own worst enemy. And I love, Relly has a saying that I've adopted, you have to be on your side, not on your case. And if you recognize where your healthy boundaries are, and you are, as you said earlier, if you are that resilient person, and I said, if you've got your firm feet planted in the right direction, you'll know when it's safe to say no, because that's what's right for you. And you're so right, Lynn. When we're little girls, we culturally distinguish our nurturing, our caring, our empathy. And it's not that we don't know that there's something going on, but again, like our male counterparts, we are invested in whatever it is to the point where it becomes a danger zone.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you recommend that people do that helps them when they are, in this state, and especially when they're manifesting some of this burnout in their leadership roles. What can we do?
I think the first thing that you have to do, the first point of call, is that you have to open up your mouth and say something. You have to communicate that you're not feeling right. I think that there's a lot of guilt associated with asking for help, or saying no because you feel like you're not a team player, or everything's going to fall down if you don't say yes. These are misconceptions. And I think when you are emotionally and physically drained at the end of most work days, and it's hard to concentrate, and you are unmotivated, even doing the tasks and things that you enjoy in life, you've got to ask yourself some big questions. And it's not about going to the doctor and getting a slip that says you can't work for a week. It's actually about taking that time off and saying to the person, your direct report, or if you're the leader, asking yourself the question, how can I actually let go of some control? Control is a big thing. So we often feel the need to control instead of delegating, and that's not really good leadership. Really good leadership means that you're empowering others to actually do their job, and they are often better at those things than you are. You're the visionary. If you're at the top, you're carrying the vision, you're inspiring, you're motivating, but you don't have to do all the hard work. You don't have to be in the weeds. You should not be in the weeds. You are not an octopus. Let your team do their job, and they will repay you with loyalty and productivity. So when you let go of that control, the need to be everything to everyone, that's a great beginning. Recognizing that you need to take care of you. Because if you don't take care of you, then everything else falls down.
That's beautiful. And kind of getting those signals. So, what would you say, because I liked what we talked about your title, Quiet Burn, what are some of the signals that somebody is burnout? I mean, so maybe just for our audience, because I know it's different for everybody, but because it's quiet, how do we raise it so there's a voice and it's more flashing? What would you say for someone, how would I know? How would the people you deal with, how would they know they're burnout?
It often manifests itself as first kind of fatigue. So, it could just feel like mild fatigue, like a flu or virus, or, something that you'd kind of go, that's okay. I'll feel better after I have a rest. But then it becomes a building thing, so that you don't necessarily want to get up and go to work. You're feeling like uninspired. And also you feel unvalued, unrecognized, unheard. It's all of these little micro abuses that add up that you feel regularly over the course of time. So they build up and they just slowly but surely kind of niggle away at you and make you feel low. And then the other thing is, you when you don't feel rested in spite of all of the rest that you've gotten. So you may have spent the entire weekend in bed, but you still aren't rested. That's a big thing. Sometimes we can take on more work than we can do just to prove to ourselves that we've got it. It's okay. That's a sign of burnout that nobody really thinks about. Adding more to our schedule, wearing a big albatross around our necks. Or if you're starting to really fantasize about quitting your job, disappearing or dramatically changing your life, those are things that you should really pay attention to too. That means something is off balance. So you're looking for that balance, understanding what that looks like, and not just for you, what looks like it's normal. What does normal look like for you? And if normal looks like you are constantly treading water and you're about to drown, something is dramatically wrong. And you need to
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. One of our coach students, I've been working with law enforcement for the past several years, and we're graduating quite a few coaches this year. And he has a beautiful metaphor, and it's a pitcher. So if you can imagine this beautiful glass pitcher, if it were sitting on your table, it might be full of beautiful orange juice one day, maybe some rich, yummy looking milk another day, maybe lemonade in the summertime. And he says, when you are in a state of burnout or overwhelm to the point where you're having a lot of the symptoms that you just described, it's almost like that pitcher is full of something gooey and sticky. And now it's flowing over the top and down the sides. And no matter where you grab it, it's sticky and gooey. And it's hard to look at it as something you really want to drink anymore.
Yeah.
And I just see that visual as you're talking about all of these behaviors, right? Because they're sticky. They're sticky things. This is my life. I've created this. This is the schedule. I created this. This is as you called it, an albatross. I created this. And to the point that, Relly makes all the time, if you're not looking at what you're doing to yourself, that's when you're always on your case, and nobody is ever going to turn that switch for you. I think one of the things that we can do, regardless of what our gender is recognize what we need and recognize that we do a lot of this stuff to ourselves, emotionally, mentally, and physically, and spiritually. And to the point that you're making, there has to be a recognition of these ideas that are going through our bodies, because we feel it, and it brings us to a point of stickiness where we can't get out of bed. We want to change our goals. We want to change our careers. We want to change our lives to the point where we want it to be different. But there's the stickiness about it. You can't just disconnect, right?
It's such a great point. Such a great point, Kathy. It rewires your brain. That's the thing about burnout. It really rewires your brain. Chronic stress impacts the part of the brain that is responsible for emotional regulation. Right. And when that gets frizzled, it makes everything, including your decision processes, just really confusing. And it's a leadership liability.
Mhm.
It really is a leadership liability. It is just bad for you as an individual. But we don't realize it. Not until it's too late, often.
It was too late. So Lynn, this is really great. We're going to take our next break. And I think as we're thinking about this, why knowing about it for yourself, but then also maybe we can talk about leaders. How do leaders know somebody else is burnout? Because sometimes the leaders are perpetuating it. You
Yes.
got someone who does, everything they do, more, better, faster, more, better, faster. And the leader who is promoting that. So maybe we'll come back to any of your insights on that. You're listening to Leadership Development News. We'll be waiting here for you when you come back.
Welcome back to Leadership Development News. We're having a really powerful conversation here with Lynn Blades. We were talking about her book, The Quiet Burn, and some of the distinctions between how women perceive burnout. But there's so many people who are listening in our audience, and we're so grateful to you for being with us for 20 years. My Lord, I can't believe it's been that long. And really, I still have to congratulate you for being the longest standing man in my world. And I love you, dude. I love you so much.
Thank you.
And Lynn, I just kudos, to Relly for all the things that he's done throughout his career to make mine easier. But I'll tell you this much: a lot of entrepreneurs are listening, and a lot of business professionals are listening. And when we think about expectations and workplace culture, let's talk a little bit about men and women and how they perceive burnout differently. I think that's really important for people to hear before the end of the show.
You're absolutely right. Men do burnout. They definitely experience it. It is different though. And the funny thing about it is that they don't talk about it because it doesn't feel like it's the masculine thing to do. And they will wait until they're almost 6 feet under to do anything about it. So they do feel it and experience it, but they don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very male trait. So it manifests itself in different ways, and often you'll see it's in abusing their bodies, alcoholism, drugs, excessive behavior. It manifests itself very differently than it does with a woman. A woman, she will feel it and ignore it. Just kind of go, I can't stop, because if I stop, the world stops, and everybody's world that I'm responsible for stops. So it comes from a kind of different place. But we all, both sexes do experience it, but women do experience it more and at a higher rate. And certain groups of women experience it even further. So if you're a woman of color, you're at a greater risk than anybody else at all. And that's a shame, but that's the reality of the situation. But every individual needs to understand that, if you are pushing yourself through pain, you are weakening your immune system. Long-term burnout elevates cortisol levels. And that means you're compromising your ability to fight any kind of illness, and you're increasing the risk of chronic conditions. So it simply doesn't make logical sense, but then you're not thinking with logic because your brain is not functioning properly. So burnout kills creativity, it drives disconnection, and it creates busy, broken workplaces.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to address it. It is at epidemic levels with women. It's insane. But we're not paying attention to that. But it is affecting society in general because we are living in chaos right now. There is continuous chaos at a the global leadership level that makes everyone feel very uncomfortable and disconnected and continuously worrying. And we are normalizing this kind of dysfunction. So all of these micro aggressions eat away at you and create this great big exhaustion.
Yeah.
So we're all living in this great exhaustion.
Yeah.
I swear, I think we're in the new dark ages.
Well, let me just say this much, and really, I'll punt the ball to you. In worldwide 2024 and 2025 surveys shown that high burnout rates are somewhere between 39% to over 80% of workers reporting burnout or being at risk of burnout. That's worldwide.
Yes.
And so when you talk about a dark age, here's some more data. So DHR Global in 2024 reported that 82% of white-collar workers in North America, Asia, and Europe reported being slightly to extremely burnt out. Skillsoft said 39% of global employees cited burnout and exhaustion as their top challenge. Boston Consulting Group, around half of workers globally reported experiencing burnout, and Forbes in 2025 said a study indicated that job burnout was at 66%. And they say the age at which people are most affected are Gen Z and millennials, and then Gen X and baby boomers, which is consistent with work that we know that 6 Seconds has been
absolutely
following for a decade.
The Gen Zs, they are looking at their lives differently. What they consider success is much different from what we consider a successful life.
Absolutely. And I just
go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say a couple more things here. So the primary causes of burnout, I think, are really important. Heavy workload and long hours, insufficient pay or feeling valued, lack of work-life balance, and job insecurity. And I think that, the consequences we've seen clearly are performance issues, a lack of feeling a member of a team or a community or a culture or an organization, which then impacts one's feeling of loyalty, right? And
Absolutely.
So all the things that you were talking about at the beginning of the show, it's this vicious cycle, right, that we create.
So Lynn, let me ask you this question just because I want to, because we got all the stats of what we don't want. What are you hoping that people will get out of your book? And so if they get your book, what are some of the key takeaways that you hope they'll walk away with?
One of the things I really want people to walk away with is that you're not alone. So there's several case studies in the book, and there's somebody for everybody. High level achievers, high performers, at a global level, who have simply been burnt to a crisp. And their stories sound familiar. And when you know something is familiar, you recognize it, it opens up your eyes and makes you go, oh my God, that's me. So that to understand and recognize that you're not alone is really important. The other thing is to have self-awareness, real proper self-awareness of the things that make you happy, the things that you need to prioritize, because I don't believe, one, in martyrdom, and two, in multitasking. I believe in prioritizing. So yes, sometimes we do have to multitask, but multitask means you're working at, 60% across the board, instead of prioritizing, which gives you the ability to focus in on something, do it well, and then move to the next thing. Also, not setting unachievable goals, being really realistic about your expectations.
Yes.
So I think these kinds of things, and understanding how society has conditioned us and the reasons and logic behind the decisions that we make, and knowing that we can change the way we think, I think is incredibly important. Oh, don't die, battery. My battery's saying it's.
Oh, well, we'll catch you here. Just a couple things to support you, Lynn. First of all, in terms of the managing stress, I think seeking support, the way you've described it, is very important. Recognizing that we have the opportunity to reevaluate our goals. And
Yes.
sometimes we just need a thinking partner to help us do that. Finding meaning in reflections of opportunities that we've had in the past and focusing on the positive experiences that we've had and setting those realistic expectations based on a time in our lives when we were satisfied with the amount of work and the value we were feeling for that work. I think what Relly said is so appropriate. More. People are in this state of more.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at evaluating their lives from a perspective of when they could identify with their purpose and feeling satisfied with generating enough of whatever it was they had, whether it was enough time, enough money, is so important. Exercising regularly, taking breaks,
Yes.
healthy boundaries. So I think, there is hope for everyone. And I know a lot of people are worried about AI, and let me just put this plug in for AI. AI is not taking away any jobs that require empathy, creativity, or physical work. And so for those of us who recognize that empathy for ourselves is the first step, we're already on the path to being the best us that we can be. And we cannot get replaced.
No question. No question. It's nothing like the human touch.
Before we lose touch with you, what are because I know you're looking at your battery there. We got just a couple minutes left. What would be some of the kind of key takeaways? Let me ask you, like we have a lightning round, but let me ask you this with a different question. So if what the best thing to do about burnout is?
Say no without guilt. Unashamedly say no. If you're not feeling it, don't do it. Schedule breaks like you're scheduling, meetings. Put them into your diary. Use that exercise, Kathy. Oh my God, it saved my life. Exercise, move your body, get out of there and get out of your chair, go to lunch, leave the building.
Right.
Start your day with intention, Think about it. When you wake up in the morning, how do I feel? What do I want to get out of this day? How's it going to help me? Anything I commit to, it's about me. I need to, protect and focus my time. So treat sleep like an investment. Sleep is absolutely necessary to your vitality, to sustaining your vitality and your emotional intelligence. And reframe your rest as productivity. When you look at it like that, that burnout that starts as irritability and exhaustion and brain fog, don't ignore the signs. Check in daily and ask yourself, how am I feeling mentally, emotionally, and physically? And surround yourself, and you said this, with energizing people. Really get rid of those vampires. Drop the energy drainers.
Yes.
Your life will be much better without them.
That's beautiful. So along with this, what do you do during the day that's the best thing for you during the day that can fill your cup, maybe make you more resilient? What's a practice of yours?
I love to think. I like to think, and my best ideas come to me when I'm still. So I always take breaks. I take the time. I go outside. I walk. I look at all around me, look at nature. I'm a really active listener. I take in things that I hear other people saying while I'm on the train going to work, or I just like to absorb life. That is the thing that keeps me nourished. But I also really eat well, and I do believe in exercise, and I give gratitude and thanks every day, not just for my successes, but my trials and tribulations and challenges. And if I can help my clients and anybody in any way, if I can give back, that is my good karma. That is sending out a message of positivity, and whatever comes back to me is what's supposed to come back to me. And I really try to live my life that way.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Well, we're at the end of our time. It's been an absolute blessing to have you with us today, Lynn, and I can hear your inspiration and your passion and love for everyone that you touch. And really, I don't know how to thank you for all these years of amazing partnership. Please, everybody, tune in to tune up your leadership next week on Leadership Development News. Take good care.
And for information on Lynn Blades, 2 N's on Lynn, BLADES.com. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. What a pleasure.
Thank you.